A research sheep named Zico is examining different species of insects when he comes across a wolf napping in front of a tree. Desperate, the animal runs away, but upon realizing that it has just entered the territory of the pack of wolves, it flees as fast as possible. Meanwhile, the gang leader talks with his companions about the previous night, where they managed to stop some jackals from stealing their supplies. Wanting to cause trouble for the wolf who hasn't returned yet, Ragnar asks where Gray is, and the chief becomes furious when he notices his disappearance. Far away, Gray chases the sheep for a few minutes and discovers that the animal belongs to a small village, which has even more sheep and other prey living there. Excited, the wolf goes to alert his friends about the discovery, but is interrupted by Magra, the pack leader, who explains that they should only hunt what they need to feed themselves, since all life is sacred. Soon after, Magra reveals that due to his advanced age, he will no longer be able to lead the pack, and asks the wolves to volunteer for a fight for the title of pack leader. Upon hearing this, Ragnar volunteers immediately, and as soon as he realizes that Gray also intends to compete for the position, he suggests that the contest continue until one of the competitors is eliminated. However, none of the wolves take the madman seriously, and Magra declares that in 3 days, at noon, the pair will face off in a fierce combat. In the village of Sheeps, researcher Zika uses the alarm bell to get the residents' attention, and as soon as they gather, the animals ask the reason for all the chaos. Without wasting any time, the sheep meets with the village leader and explains the sudden appearance of a ferocious pack of wolves. Soon after, the elder explains that all they need to do is stay safe, and asks Butso, the buffalo guard of the place, to lock the gate. Later, Gray and Bianca walk through the mountains while talking about the party that will take place that night, and as they approach the top of the cliff, the wolf reveals a heart he made for her in one of the trees. Before they could continue their conversation, the animal spotted Ragnar setting off on a hunt with his 2 friends, and became angry at the wolf's disrespect for the leader's rules. So, Gray says goodbye to Bianca and sets off to stop the rebel, who ends up crashing into a tree. Immediately afterwards, the wolf takes the opportunity to approach the sheep that were being chased, and asks them to run away, allowing the pair to return safely to the village. Hours later, the pack ceremony begins, and Bianca dances alongside the other she-wolves, while the wolves chat around one of the campfires. At that moment, Gray appears in a costume he made himself and begins to mock Ragnar, making the animal look like a madman in front of everyone. Furthermore, Gray throws some fruit in the predator's face, which enrages the predator, causing it to attack him. However, the young wolf is undeterred, and after making his opponent crash into a tree once more, he removes his mask, sparking a wave of applause from the audience. This attitude infuriates Ragnar, and he knocks his enemy to the ground, saying that the gang would never want a weak clown as their leader. Afraid of the rampaging wolf, the animals of the pack stand by their idea, but Gray counters his arguments, asking if the group would like to live happily and without any kind of exploitation. As soon as they hear this proposal, everyone starts applauding and agreeing with the young animal, leading to a tie in the vote between the candidates for leadership. Realizing that his girlfriend hasn't made her choice yet, Gray asks her to vote for him, and upset by her boyfriend's strange behavior, Bianca leaves, followed by him. When asked why she was leading the ceremony, the she-wolf explained that Gray wasn't ready to lead the pack, as all he knew how to do was make jokes and cause chaos. Furthermore, Bianca admits that she is tired of waiting for the marriage proposal, and since she no longer wants to continue with all of this, she distances herself from him, saying that it's all over. This situation leaves Gray devastated, and he sits on the cliff to reflect on his actions, while Ragnar continues trying to convince Maga that he is the most suitable for the leadership position. However, the elder explains that despite possessing more qualities than the young wolf, Ragnar will not receive the title so easily, and thus the combat between them will decide their fate. Hours pass, and Gray continues to think about the argument he had with Bianca, and at that moment, he sees a party with a group of animals and goes there. Suddenly, a presentation begins, and excited, Gray decides to interact, causing everyone to panic, as they are seeing a predator in front of them. Desperate, the wolf tries to explain that he didn't come there to hurt them, but the animals don't listen to him, and he enters one of the tents, where he encounters Mami, the gypsy of the pack. In order to help the predator, Mami drinks a potion of courage, so that she will not feel intimidated by his presence, and upon hearing about what happened to Bianca, she offers him a mutation potion. Without thinking twice, Gray drinks the beverage and transforms into different animals in a matter of seconds. After a few random transformations, the wolf returns to its original form, and noticing that a pair of horns has sprouted on its head, Mami hurries it away before it realizes what's happening. Therefore, Gray heads towards his pack, but before he can talk to his companions, the wolf ends up transforming into a sheep. Because of this, the entire pack starts chasing after Gray, who shouts that he is not prey, but one of them. Despite this, none of the predators seem to listen to him, and the wolf in sheep's clothing is forced to flee to avoid being devoured. During the chase, Gray ends up getting stuck in a tree, and while several wolves fall down the mountain, the fake sheep is thrown towards Rhaegar. After colliding with a tree trunk, the pair begin to slide down the mountains of the region, and Rhaegar tries to attack his target, but is prevented when he hits a tree branch. Soon after, Gray, who continued surfing on the log, accidentally jumps across a ravine and wakes up a few minutes after the impact. Upon realizing that he was rescued by a flock of sheep, Gray becomes desperate and tries to understand why he is going through all of this. Noticing that the animal doesn't seem well, Lyra calls for some of the villagers, who gather to talk to the stranger. While the sheeps chat, Gray laments his situation, then Zico begins to question him, asking where he comes from. Believing he will be safer if they don't know who he really is, Gray decides to lie, and says he is looking for a new home after his family was devoured by predatory fish. Therefore, the flock of sheep and sheets decides to allow the supposed refugee to stay in their village, and the elder asks him to behave. The group then leaves the residence, and at that moment, a fly appears to torment Gray, who becomes furious and begins to destroy the place while trying to eliminate the insect. Sometime later, Gray continues to feel bad about what he's going through, and tries to think of a way to reverse his situation. Remembering that the last thing he had done before all this was suffer a great thaw, the false sheep concludes that he needs to go through it again, and begins to make a series of dangerous leaps through the region. The problem is that none of the attempts seem to work as expected, and this makes Gray increasingly frustrated. Therefore, he decides to perform an even more dangerous jump, and Lyra becomes worried, saying that all that height will eliminate him. Quickly, Moss, one of the young sheeps, runs to save the newcomer, but Gray ends up falling on top of him. At that moment, the transformed wolf remembers the conversation he had with Mane, and decides to look for her, making Zico even more suspicious of his intentions. However, Gray is unable to find the group of gypsies, and he feels sad, imagining that from now on, he will have to live like a sheep forever. Far away, Rhaegar talks to Bianca about Gray's disappearance, but the wolf doesn't seem saddened by what happened, and claims that his adversary probably fled the pack to avoid facing him. This behavior irritates Bianca, and she decides to distance herself from the area, as she doesn't understand what her ex-boyfriend is doing so far away from his friends. Meanwhile, Gray sees Magra observing the area from atop the cliff and decides to remain hidden, as there is nothing more that can be done. The next day, Gray goes to watch a tournament with the other sheeps, and is happy to see the happy way those animals usually live. During the event, the presenter calls for the grand champion Louis, and indignant at the competitor's lackluster appearance, the mutant wolf begins to laugh at him. Because of this, Gray is forced to enter the arena to face Louis, who manages to defeat him without any difficulty. Later, Lyra sets off to look for his friend along with his nephew, who is being reprimanded for bringing the newcomer to the fighting event. While searching for Gray, Lyra is surprised by a pair of wolves who decide to attack her, causing her to scream in despair. Hearing the sheep's cries, the false sheep rushes off to rescue her, and during his dash to reach the group, he begins to slip on the grass. Thanks to this, Gray ends up colliding with the pair of predators, who flee in fright, believing that the sheeps now have a powerful warrior on their side. Wanting to explain that it was all a misunderstanding, the false sheep tries to catch up with his packmates, but he is not fast enough. At that moment, Gray encounters Mommy traveling along the road and runs to ask for her help, but the gypsy decides to hide in her carriage so that she doesn't have to undo the mistake she made in giving him the potion. Despite this, the mutant wolf does not give up on his goal, and takes a briefcase containing several of Mammy's potions. After drinking each of the vials, Gray feels a powerful effect on his body, but it was nothing more than the combined effect of several potions, which causes him to be thrown upwards and fall hard to the ground. Finally, the carriage driver states that the animal should accept its true identity as a sheep, and saddened, it returns to the village, where it is greeted by a surprise party. The elder of the sheeps explains that since Gray is the newest resident of the village, they wanted to give him a warm welcome, so they should celebrate and have fun for the rest of the night. This gesture from the gang makes the newcomer extremely happy, and they spend the rest of the night celebrating his arrival. Meanwhile, a pair of sheeps venture outside the village to explore, believing they will be able to protect themselves if surprised by predators. Nearby, Rhaegar talks to Magra about Gray's disappearance, and questions whether he will continue to delay the event where the new leader will be chosen. Irritated, the elder reveals that he will not allow a wolf who doesn't know the rules to take his place as leader. Furthermore, Magra says that Rhaegar won't be a leader so easily while he's alive, and tired of it all, the traitorous wolf lunges at the old man, who throws him far away. However, Dragir makes a cowardly move, throwing a handful of dirt into the leader's eyes, stunning him and causing him to be quickly knocked off the cliff. Startled by the scene, the pair of sheep scream in terror, attracting the attention of Dragir, who manages to capture one of them. Now that he has a prisoner, the villain gathers the members of the pack and lies, saying that Magra suffered a terrible tragedy. Furthermore, Dragir declares that he will be the new leader of the pack from now on, and after banning the law of challenge by combat, he affirms that the aggressive sport hunting of wolves will return. Finally, the traitor explains that they will hold a ceremony the following morning, and they can use the body of the captive sheep as a feast. Far away, the fledgling that escaped the attack tells the villagers everything that happened, and at the same time, a bird friend of the flock appears before everyone, revealing Dragir's plan. Dre then asks the elder what will be done to rescue the animal. However, the leader explains that there is nothing more that can be done for the land, and indignant at the group's lack of courage, Dre says he will resolve this alone. What he didn't expect was that Moss had also offered to help him, as he wanted to impress Lyra because he had strong feelings for her. Therefore, the pair set off to confront the predators and rescue the lamb. After reaching the wolves' territory, Dre asks Moss to be quiet with his movements, but the sheep is very clumsy and ends up hitting his head against a rock. Because of this, the poor animal loses consciousness, and Dre decides to act alone, surprising one of the wolves, who recognizes his voice. To escape, the false sheep tells its flock mate not to look back, then throws it into the well, allowing the sheep to use the predator's body to jump out. With the little one rescued, Dre returns to the village along with Moss, who is applauded by everyone, since the trio decided to tell everyone that he saved the lamb. During the celebration, the transformed wolf begins to remember Bianca and walks away as a heavy rain begins. After a long walk, Dre arrives at the cliff where he last spoke with his girlfriend, and begins to shout her name. At that moment, the animal is surprised by the she-wolf, who knocks him down while asking how he knows who she is. Dre quickly explains that he is suffering from the effects of one of the potions made by Mommy the rabbit, who offered the solution when she heard about his desire to change his personality. Soon after, Bianca tells him about everything that's happening in the pack, and the wolf asks why Magra allowed all of this. As soon as she realizes that Dre didn't even know about the leader's sad end, the she-wolf states that thanks to her ex-boyfriend's actions, the pack is facing terrible leadership. After that, Bianca leaves and returns to the pack, where she discovers that Dragir has been notified about the rescue of the lamb, causing him to decide to plan an attack against the sheeps, since he now knows that Dre is with them. The following day, it is revealed that Zico was hiding and watching the wolf pair, and, outraged by Dre's lies, he tries to accuse him in front of everyone. Realizing that no one believes his words, the sheep reveals the photograph he took of the couple, and this causes everyone to start questioning the newcomer. Tired of the treatment he has been receiving, Dre becomes furious with everyone, and claims that Zico is nothing but a fraud, pretending to write down his knowledge in his notebook, but never adding anything useful to the group. Furthermore, the mutant wolf insults all the friends he made during his time in the pack, and leaves because he no longer wishes to remain with them. During his long, aimless journey, Dre begins to suffer from hallucinations and falls unconscious to the ground, where he is rescued by Mommy. As soon as the mutant wolf wakes up, the rabbit warns him that at dawn the next day, the potion's effect will become irreversible, so he needs to run towards the red pine tree. Mommy explains that the dew from that pine tree is the only thing that can undo the transformation, and states that he must do it as quickly as possible, since the wolves will decimate the village of sheeps the following day. Hearing this, Dre realizes he has a choice to make, and without thinking twice, he heads towards the flock so he can save the sheeps. As soon as he arrives in the village, Dre tells them about the attack the wolves are planning, and states that if they come together to work the following morning, they will be able to survive the confrontation. Realizing the animal is right, everyone begins to prepare for the attack, knowing that this time, they won't be able to run away. Hours later, the wolf pack sets off towards the flock's village, while Bianca travels alone to meet Mommy. The following morning, Dragir gives the signal for the predators to begin the attack, causing an army of wolves to charge towards the village. However, as soon as they enter the dense fog, the animals collide with several scarecrows, and the sheeps take advantage of the distraction to create a line of flames and launch themselves with their catapults. Thanks to this, dozens of wolves are defeated by the projectiles, and realizing that several of his subjects are retreating from the battlefield, Dragir rushes to join the fight. Quickly, the pack leader leaps over the flames and destroys one of the catapults, allowing the army to advance to the gates, where one of the sheeps awaited them with a gigantic war tank they had built the previous night. When they are hit by hundreds of shots that look like homemade sweets, Rhaegar is confused and wonders how that would hinder them in combat. What the villain didn't expect was that the sheep would receive help from their bird friends, who would release several beehives around the enemies. This causes even more wolves to be distracted by the stings, and furious, Rhaegar summons part of the group to continue following him. Therefore, Grey yells for the sheep to start the hand-to-hand combat, and the flock moves together to defeat the predators. At the same time, Moss realizes that Lyra has been cornered by one of the wolves, and runs towards her, defeating several enemies along the way, as well as hitting one of his allies. Despite this, Moss manages to reach the sheep in time and delivers a blow to the predator's head. At this point, it is revealed that Grey's friend had a kind of constant headache, and as soon as he notices that his pain has gone away after the blow, he thanks the sheep and leaves the fight. Soon after, more wolves appear to join the war, and Grey reunites with Butso to defeat the enemies together, while the Elder signals for everyone to run to the village cave. Believing that the prey were retreating, Rhaegar shouted for his army to pursue the sheep, but this was just another strategy of the flock, which trapped the predators in the cave. The problem is that the water in the cave is starting to fill the place, causing the wolves to run out of oxygen, and knowing that they will be just as evil as the wolves if they eliminate them, Grey asks the herd to help him save them. Despite some doubts and discussions, the group realizes that Grey is right, and they save the predators' lives. However, Rhaegar doesn't change his mind and captures one of the lands, threatening to eliminate it right there. Amid the panic, the other wolves stop attacking, then Lyra orders the villain to release her brother immediately. Furious, Grey questions how his packmates forgot Magra's teachings so quickly, and states that since they started following their new leader, they've turned into worms fighting over crows. Upon hearing this, Rhaegar declares that his enemy was to blame for what happened to Magra, but the Lan interrupts him, saying that the villain was the one who pushed the old man off the cliff. This behavior makes the wolf even angrier, and the Lan bites his hand, causing him to throw it away. Grey then challenges Rhaegar to a final duel, questioning whether he will be brave enough to accept. The villain quickly knocks his opponent to the ground, but the mutant wolf hits him with a tip that sends him flying against the rocks. Immediately afterward, the wolves exchange several blows on the cliff, and during the fight, Grey sees the sun reaching the center of the sky, and becomes sad knowing that the potion's effect will now be irreversible. Wanting to humiliate him, Rhaegar claims that his enemy has always been a sheep, but he is interrupted by Bianca, who appears with Mani, and throws a potion at her ex-boyfriend. Despite having taken the solution, Grey feels nothing happening, and is grabbed by his opponent, who throws him against the rocks. However, Grey manages to stand up again, generating a powerful beam of light, and revealing that the potion's effect has been reversed. Finally, the wolf declares that as long as he lives, Rhaegar will never be the leader of the pack, and furious, the villain tries to attack him. However, Grey easily dodges, and the madman ends up on top of a tree trunk, causing him to fall off the cliff and land on the rocks of the waterfall. With that, everyone celebrates the end of the war, and to correct his main mistake, Grey proposes to Bianca. Days later, the elder of the sheep performs the marriage of the wolves, beginning a period of peace between the species. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.